To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we are going to be talking about the 4th episode of Peacemaker. Had to think about that for a minute because it is the 4th episode, but they dropped the first 3 all at once. So it kind of throws me off, you know. Where Book of Boba Fett, we got 1 episode, and then next week another episode. This one kind of went, here's a bunch. And now here's 1. Next week we'll give you another. So it throws me off with the fact that Peacemaker and Book of Boba Fett are on the same episodes right now, even though they started very far apart. But we're going to talk about that. And there's not a lot of other news popping up right now. I mean, unless you're a sports guy, and I know Kyle is a sports guy as well. You know, seeing today like Sean Payton is no longer the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. There's a big shakeup. Tom Brady is talking about potential retirement. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of big shakeups going on in football right now. But we're not here to talk about football. If we wanted to, we could definitely do a show about football. I used to cover football for Bleeding Cool for a little while. I like football. I like all sports. But we're going to stay on the pop culture side of it today. I did find it interesting that there's a little back and forth going on between Peter Dinklage, who I have just think is awesome. Got so much respect for him and the work he does. I think he's one of those guys that makes whatever he's in so much better. You know, the shows that back when he was doing there was a sci-fi show with Brent Spiner and Carla Gugino. Can't remember how to pronounce her name, but there was a short-lived sci-fi show, and he was on there, and he was absolutely fantastic. His time on Game of Thrones, just everything he's been in has been great. Even the Saturday Night Live skit about space pants. So he's doing the Cyrano movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. But he was being interviewed on a podcast, and somebody asked about the new Disney live-action Snow White. And he has some interesting things to say. He basically called Disney out for the fact that they've cast a Latino as Cinderella to show that they're progressive, but they're still doing the story about 7 dwarfs who live in a cave. You know, and that's not really that progressive anymore. You know, and I mean, Dinklage was upset about that. Rightfully so, too, because it does. It puts dwarfism into a very bad light, very stereotypical. But Disney has responded that they're actually working with people with dwarfism to try to come up with better ways to present the story for that aspect. And we haven't seen enough of trailers and stuff or footage to know how they're going to do that. We know that the lead female from, I can't think of her name right now, but from West Side Story is going to be Cinderella or Snow White. Gal Gadot is going to be the evil queen, but everything else is still up in the air. So we'll have to see how Disney handles this. When you have an actor with a following such as Peter Dinklage, you do have to answer to that. There is basically he's calling him out, and we don't talk about Bruno. I know that's a reference to something.
It's a reference to Encanto, but I was more or less making a reference to we don't talk about football here.
Okay. I haven't seen Encanto, but I knew there was a reference to that. I don't get it.
I haven't seen it either, but I see memes.
Yeah. So, all right. So it'd be interesting to see how this Snow White thing is going to fall out. When, like I said, Peter Dinklage calls you out, and very validly. It'll be interesting to see how Disney responds, because Disney really is trying to be inclusive. They're doing a lot of diversity casting all across the board. They're making a lot of choices that I think are progressive, at least on the surface. So have to see how they handle that. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. Other than that, like I said, there's not a lot of big news. There's set photos of Emilia Clarke and Samuel L. Jackson for the filming of Secret Invasion. The biggest thing to come out of that is Sam isn't wearing an eye patch right now. He's got the flirking claw marks over his eye, but you see the milky left eye, and he's got this big I've been living on the streets for 6 months beard going on. So he looks a bit like he does at like a progression of the end of Captain America Winter Soldier, when Hydra gets called out and he goes on solo, which makes me wonder if he did. But he doesn't look like he did in Spider-Man Far From Home. Because in Far From Home at the end, he's just walking around in the Hawaiian shirt trying to find his shoes on the spaceship. But he's got the eye patch. He's shaven. So what happened between then and now? Could be interesting. The big news that did happen, and this actually happened late Friday, is Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who you might know best from playing Huntress in Birds of Prey. She played Ramona Flowers in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. She is joining the Star Wars franchise. And we're not sure what role she's playing, but she's going to be in the Ahsoka Tano series. And that's, we're already Rosario Dawson and a few other people. It should be interesting to see what character she plays. We don't know of any of the bad guys in the series. We expect it'll be Grand Admiral Thrawn, or at least at some point. But there probably needs to be a Sith user or a Force user to go opposite of Ahsoka. And I could see Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing some form of Sith. Now, what's funny is you watch online, and anytime a female is cast anywhere in the Marvel universe or in the Star Wars universe, the first reaction is it Mara Jade? Is she playing Mara Jade? I don't think we're going to get Mara Jade, at least not in the sense that people think, because we've seen the end of Luke Skywalker, and we've seen how he took on the class, the training Jedis and stuff. And there's no wife, there's no girlfriend, there's no love interest. That's I don't think we're going to get Mara Jade in the way that people expect. I think she's going to live in Legends. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and get to Peacemaker. But before we do, and the potential of spoilers, I'm going to ask Kyle to run our spoiler banner. All right. So, this latest episode of Peacemaker picks up almost immediately after the third episode, where, of course, the third episode ends where they've gone to kill Senator Goff. They took out his wife, or Vigilante took out his wife and his 2 kids by, using the sniper rifle when Peacemaker balked at it. But before they could kill off Goff, Judo Master jumps in and takes them out, captures them, and of course Goff sends Judo Master off to tell the others what's going on, while the other butterflies what's going on, while he goes to torture Vigilante with the idea, if he tortures Vigilante, Peacemaker will talk. Now, that's the dumbest thing anybody's done in a long time, if you know these characters at all, because Peacemaker doesn't care. You could torture Vigilante and Peacemaker just might enjoy watching it. But Vigilante gets electrocution to parts of your body you don't really want electrocution, unless that's your thing. If that's your thing, that's you. I don't think Vigilante's, that's his thing. So it wasn't pleasant for him. And then he also tried to cut off one of his toes with really dull shears. So it wasn't working. He was really fighting with it. And then eventually, because of Murn's badly timed explosion, Peacemaker gets free, takes out Goff, and they see the butterfly escaping out of the destroyed head. And the interesting thing is that we don't really see what happens to the butterfly at first. Now, Peacemaker says, well, I shot it. I blew it apart because it's a freaking alien butterfly. I'm going to do that. Well, he didn't. We find out later that he put it in a giant jar. I don't know where the jar came from. That's a question I hadn't even thought of that until just now. Where did the jar come from? And he poked little holes in it. Like he was catching a praying mantis or something. He poked little holes in it so he can still get air, but you can't get out. And then later he blows pot smoke into the jar to get the alien butterfly high. That's the show we're seeing. That's the show James Gunn has given us. That our main character gets depressed, gets high, and tries to get an alien species high the same way that a teenager tries to get his dog high. That's Peacemaker. That's James Gunn. And you know what? I'm all for it. This has been a very unique series. But we see them wrap it up, and everybody's heading back, and they've got Judo Master, who's unconscious, because John Economos hit him with the van and then hit him over the head about a dozen times with a crowbar. But the little guy is not dying. Now, it makes me wonder if maybe he's a butterfly as well, because he gets hit over the head multiple times, still keeps going. He gets shot in the chest, and he's still going. So that seems like it's more than just, he's really well trained at judo. I mean, if I took judo, hey, Richard, if I took judo, I think the best I could do is maybe throw somebody. I don't think I could replace my destroyed heart with my liver, as Peacemaker claims in the show. A lot goes on in this episode. Vigilante gets accepted onto the team. And the attitude is, we know he's a psychopath, but we kind of need one. And Peacemaker isn't really being the psychopath we need. He's being a lot more emotional. So we need a psychopath. So we'll take we'll take Vigilante too, kind of a package deal. And it's true. When it came time to shoot the bad guys, the children and stuff, Vigilante didn't hesitate. He just got in there, started humming along, little jokes, and just bam, 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 bam. So, yeah, I think Vigilante may actually be the better, the operative for them than Peacemaker is right now, which I find kind of interesting. Vigilante is a really strange character. You have the moments where he seems ridiculously stupid. Like in the third episode, he gets his mask pulled off and he spends all this time making funny faces so that Goff wouldn't recognize him. And it doesn't work. But and then there's another scene where Abadayo basically talks him into the idea that he should kill Peacemaker's father. Hey, Derpy, how you doing? Is Derpy really a good way to gaming? Derpy gaming, but how you doing, sir? So she kind of psychologically get him to agree to kill Vigilante or Peacemaker's father. So he gets himself thrown into jail by shattering the window of the prison. And then he tracks down Augie. Augie Smith is, a white supremacist, a villain named the White Dragon, and also happens to be played by Robert Patrick. But he gets in there and he goes up to the table where all of these white supremacists are. He sits down and just starts a conversation about what do you think are some of the best things that the African American culture has brought to our society. And he just starts hitting them with, just the things he says are so on point and so out of the blue that you're going, wait a minute, where'd this guy come from? And then, of course, he gets them to attack him, which in prison, that's what you want. You don't want to be the one that starts the fight. You want to be the one that ends the fight. Well, he takes out 3 of them, but Augie's too smart to get involved and wouldn't take it on. And then Vigilante lets slip that he's a horrible father. So now he knows that somehow this is tied to Chris, to Peacemaker. So that part of it's bad. But, Vigilante is really becoming an interesting character here, even more so than Peacemaker. I find myself enjoying his scenes when he's in a scene a little bit better than I do when Peacemaker's on screen. And I think John Cena's doing a great job as Peacemaker. It's just the character is kind of sad. He's let's see. He says, I never got to Peacemaker, unfortunately, but I'm not one of those people that gets hurt of hearing spoilers. Okay. Well, cool. The scenes where we're kind of dealing with Peacemaker and his growing up, they're sad. They're tragic. And he's a rough character because he's not likable, but at the same time, this history that he has, you feel for him. You feel for him because his dad was absolutely horrible to him. There was something involving his brother, and by the way it's being set up, that somehow Chris might have killed his own brother because of his dad. There's a scene we get that his dad basically has him kill someone in front of him. There's a lot of negativity, and then his dad is just so horrible to him. that, you do feel bad for him, but then at the same time, the way he talks and the inappropriate behavior and all of that, you just it's tough, because there are a lot of scenes now where you really feel for him, and you see that his growth has been stunted. He's not likable. He doesn't connect to people. The closest thing he has to a friend are either his pet eagle, who is awesome, by the way. Vigilante and Eagly are the two best things on the show. And then Vigilante, who he's not really a friend to, but Vigilante is a friend to him. So it's a really weird dynamic they have going with this character. And I don't know if it would work on any other show. What James Gunn is doing here is so unique, because these aren't likable people. I mean, really, there's nobody in this cast that you'd want to sit down and have a beer with. I mean, Vigilante's probably the closest, and he's insane. Peacemaker is not somebody you want to hang out with. Everybody is manipulating everybody. It's a really strange show that it works, because you don't have to like the people to like the story, I guess. The humor is juvenile sometimes. There's a movie a few years ago, and I likened this series to that movie the other day, called, I think it was called Happy Time Murders. And it was basically, I can't think of her name. Kyle. Melissa, never mind. Melissa McCarthy and Puppets is a murder mystery with Melissa McCarthy as a police detective, and her partner is a puppet. And it's in a world where puppets exist. And the humor in that was raunchy, over the top, bizarre, and at the same time, you got kind of hooked into the story, and some of the humor really works and is funny. But Kyle says, I feel like on some level the show is an allegory for Hollywood. And it could be. I know that there's a character that Gunn introduced. And it's not really a character, it's a caricature. There's a little bunny rabbit in a cape that keeps showing up in the show. In this Suicide Squad movie, Rick Flag is wearing it, and he's holding up a sign in Spanish that translates to, is obstacles or opportunities, or something to that effect. And it's a Ultra Bunny, I think is the name they call the character. He's got a little UB on there. And the whole thing is basically him poking at the fact that he wouldn't be at Warner Brothers doing the Suicide Squad movie and now the TV show had it not been for Disney firing him for things that he had said 10 years prior and had already apologized for, and then hired him back to finish, Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's poking fun at that. And he's come out and said that, he's having the time of his life over at Warner Brothers. He's not speaking as highly about his time at Marvel anymore. So I think there's a lot of resentment there. And it might be him poking fun at Hollywood, or at least the big superhero stuff. He does a different movie now, movie with another company, a superhero movie away from Disney. Now he's doing a TV series when Disney's getting into doing the Marvel series. It could be him having a little go at Disney, But the show, there's each of the characters is kind of moving along in different directions. which is fascinating. So, I mean, they're really moving everybody along. You've got Harcourt that you're trying to figure out. She obviously, it seems like she's missing something in life. And it's interesting how she plays opposite of the other characters. She has a rapport with Economos. She seems to respect Myrn because that's the boss. She doesn't really connect with Abadayo because she's the new girl. She keeps Peacemaker at a distance, yet when Vigilante fails to kill Augie in prison, she's the one that goes and picks him up and is very sympathetic. Tries to be comforting, which it makes me wonder, is she manipulating everybody? Is she being what she thinks is best to be with that person to get what she wants out of them? If playing hard to get with Peacemaker, but every once in a while giving him a little breadcrumb that brings him along, then that's what she's doing. With Vigilante, both his parents were murdered. His entire family's wiped out. He doesn't have anybody. He's obviously attached himself to Peacemaker. She's being much more open with him, much more caring. She's cold towards the new girl because she wants the new girl to step up, where she's already got the thing with Economos, so she doesn't have to work that angle. She's a very interesting character, and I could see why Gunn would be. I mean, this is probably just off, might not be a part of it, but the actress who's playing Harcourt is Jennifer Holland, I believe it is. Let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, Jennifer Holland, and that's James Gunn's girlfriend. So, of course, hey, I'm a writer. If I was writing a script and my girlfriend was going to be in it, I would give her all the best lines. That's just me. So, but yeah, it's getting really interesting, all the different characters. But even I want to pronounce her name right. Adebayo. Adebayo has been one of the most fascinating characters because she comes in seeming like this real innocent, wide-eyed doe, walks in the door, and everything we find out about her going forward completely goes against that. We find out she's Amanda Waller's daughter. She's been trained since she's been a kid, kind of like Peacemaker has been, to do this job. And she just, without even thinking about it, manipulates Vigilante with the idea that it would help Peacemaker if his dad was killed. That is Amanda Waller level manipulation. That is not, oh, I'm just such a nice person, and yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you're Chris's friend, you'll go kill his dad. What? Yeah. And there's something else going on here with the dad, because it seems like every time they try to push the suspicion off of Chris, they keep putting it on his dad. Once would have been okay, but over and over and over, it really seems like there's something else going on there. First, we have Economos, who changes the registration on Chris's car when it gets left at the fight with the first butterfly. He changes it not to a random person, not just destroy the registration, not register it to somebody who couldn't possibly have been there. He registers it to Augie instead, just changes it to the dad. Then when Adebayo bribes the couple that saw Peacemaker trying to escape the apartment, both of them end up picking the same photo from the lineup Augie. They're not picking Chris, they're picking Augie. So again, the fact that both of them picked the same person, it seems like they were guided to that. And then Adebayo tries to talk Vigilante into killing him while he's in prison. Augie's in prison. That seems more than just a coincidence. Like they're really trying to take White Dragon off the board, that they're trying to take Augie off the board. But no one has said why. It's kind of this background thing going on, which I find really interesting. Like, once could be an accident. Twice, that's more than that. But 3 times, that's a conspiracy. There's something going on there, and it's multiple people. And it's all people that work for Amanda Waller. So I got a feeling that there's a specific thing to bring down Augie at this point, and we'll just have to see how that plays out. All right, we will continue this conversation in just a few minutes. We're going to roll the commercial, but before I go, let me remind you guys, we have a new show starting Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. I know what it is. Kyle knows what it is. But we're not saying, not yet. But it's going to be something cool. So you want to check it out. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. here on the West Coast. Also, we'll pick this up after the break. So be right back.
They say it, and it's true, that everything is getting faster. You're not getting any younger, and time is the single resource that you can never get back or get any more of. So why walk into your local comic shop blind when you can go in laser focused on the best books on the shelf?
Hi everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skim It. Yeah!
Spend 1 hour with Miss Jen and Bean, and they'll give you rapid-fire reviews of all the new comics hitting stores. Spend less time shopping and more time reading.
This is Provenance of Secrets.
This is The Heathens. I read Wolverine number 17.
Minute to Skim It, every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are talking The Peacemaker, Episode 4. But before we get back into that, let me remind you guys of the great shows we have coming up right after this. And right immediately following this show is Black Comic Universe with Amani Latif. And then following that is going to be Minute to Skim It with Miss Jen and Bean as they go through, they grab the new books that are coming in, they give them a quick 1 minute skim, and then they talk about it. And then after that, myself and Kyle, the producer, will be on tonight with In Stores This Week. We're going to have a couple guests tonight. Originally, I wasn't going to be able to make the show, but my things got moved around, so I will be on tonight. We've got some great books we're talking about. The Vampirella Dracula book, the latest Joy Operation from Dark Horse, House of Slaughter. There's just a lot of great comics that we've had a chance to look through and read today. Yes, Kyle?
I'm reading the new Dark Red from Aftershock that I couldn't get a copy of for Dan. Stupid physical media.
I know. Maybe you should just do a FaceTime and then hold the pages up for me to read. So That's coming up at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So we got a big lineup today of some really cool shows. You want to stick around for that. And also, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, brand new show, Here to the Experience. And I will tell you this, you're going to love the host. You are. Absolutely going to love the host. So you definitely want to watch that. And I want to thank Miss Jen for having me on her show not in stores this week, Talking Shop. Did that show yesterday. It's the first time I've been on the experience now for a year. And Miss Jen, of course, was here as well, started it as well. But her and I had never had a chance to actually talk. So she had me on to talk about the Karma Kickstarter. Now, if you're not familiar with what the Karma Kickstarter is, that's my new original erotic, romantic graphic novel with some amazing covers. We've got a Stepan Sejic cover. That's Mirka Andolfo's cover right there. That's Stepan Sejic's cover. And Michael Di Pascal. And that cover is also available in a naughty version. Because stuff, And that book is currently, we're in our final 9 or 8 days left for this campaign. It's a 120-page original graphic novel. It's a romance slice of life, kind of in the same vein as Sunstone or Swing, some of those books that are out there that are really popular, or Sweet Paprika, So it's geared for adults, but it's a fun little romance about a straight-laced advertising photographer that gets pulled into the world of an up-and-coming supermodel and all the chaos that involves around her. And it's a combination of an original story with some very odd events that have happened to me in my life as a photographer sewn together in it. So I'd ask you guys to check it out. The link is currently in chat. We are, like I said, we've got 9 days left. We're getting really close to the next stretch goal. We're at 38,000 right now. When we get to 4,000, there'll be another, a little higher than I thought. But yeah, there'll be another stretch goal after that, which I think may involve some of my actual photography too. So this is growing big, and I'm having a great, I'm really hoping this is going to get a little bit bigger, because then I'll do sequels and stuff like that. So please check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Karma, the original graphic novel. So, all right, let's get back to talking about Peacemaker. Should we roll the spoiler thing one more time, Kyle? All right, so we were talking about Adebayo and Harcourt and all these characters. Judo Master, I think, needs a little spotlight here, because this guy is tough as nails. He got, like I said, beat over the head a few times. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a butterfly because of how much damage he's taken and survived. But he does get himself out of his restraints, and he doesn't kill Economos, which kind of surprises me. I thought he would. So it makes me wonder, is he really a bad guy? Plus, in the comics, Judo Master's a hero. He's another character that came over with Peacemaker when DC bought Charlton Comics. And I'm curious if we're only seeing him as a bad guy because of the way the story's going, and he's actually on the good side, because at one point he's trying to explain, he's fighting with Peacemaker. It's like a rematch. And it really feels like it's a wrestling match, which, John Cena makes sense. And I should probably mention that playing Judo Master is a guy named Nut Lee, who is really cool, but we've only ever seen him with the helmet on. So that's kind of interesting. But they're fighting, and at one point he tries to explain to Peacemaker the butterflies aren't what you think they are. Before he could say anything else, though, Adebayo shoots him in the chest. Doesn't kill him, which is amazing. But so there seems like there's something else going on. Like I said, I think we're getting a big bait and switch going on here with these aliens, because we haven't actually seen them do anything bad except for when Peacemaker leaves the folder in the first episode out, and the butterfly he hooked up with ends up reading it and realizes that their cover is about to be blown. She attacks him with a knife. So yeah, that's bad. And he kills her, but we don't really know what they're doing. We don't know what their plan is. So are they bad guys? Are they good guys? Is this going to be another case like with the Suicide Squad movie, where their mission isn't to go down and stop Starro, even though it's called Project Starfish. Their mission is to go down and hide any traces of the government's involvement in the project. They could have lost that entire island to Starro, or that entire country to Starro, and Amanda Waller wouldn't have cared. All she wanted to make sure was there was no proof that the U.S. government had been involved with that at all. And now I wonder if there's something similar going on here. But, of course, the big surprise in the episode, and there's a lot of little stuff, surprises here and there, but we discover at the very end that, now we know that, is it Agent Myrn? We know that Clemson Myrn, played by Chukwudi Iwuji, is who's also going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now, in an unnamed role, but he's playing Clemson Myrn, and Myrn brought the information about the butterflies to Amanda Waller, but we don't know why. We don't know how he discovered them or any of that stuff, what his thing is on this, what he's trying to do, what he's trying to solve. He's specifically trying to take out certain butterflies, at least the senator, and that's all we really know about it. But he's not really forthcoming with information. But at the end, we see him alone in his apartment watching old movies, and he does that bowl of honey goo thing, and his giant tongue hangs down and sucks it in like a butterfly. So he's a butterfly. Now, my first thought when I saw that, and this may be bad on me, but do you guys remember Buckaroo Banzai? Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension? Peter Weller, Jeff Goldblum, Clancy Brown, just John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd. I mean, just an amazing cast. The story is that aliens, when the Roswell thing happened, there were aliens, and they kind of became part of society. There's a whole bunch of serial numbers that all started that day, which were the aliens. But there's two types of aliens. And the bad guy aliens are all played by Caucasian actors. And the good guy aliens that are helping Buckaroo are all Jamaican. Is it that simple? I mean, the main guy is Jamaican that we see. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Buckaroo Banzai. But I don't remember if we saw many of other aliens. But there was basically these two types of aliens. And they were split by color and race. And I'm wondering if that's what we've got going on here, that maybe there are two kinds of butterflies, and that Mern's group is trying to stop Goff's group. You know, maybe both races of butterflies have come down. I don't know. That's just the thought that hit me, was Buckaroo Banzai when we saw Mern drinking from the bowl of honey goo. And I'm sticking with honey goo, by the way. They haven't given us an actual name for it yet. So honey goo seems like it'll work. So now, who do we trust? You know, that's the other thing, is who are we supposed to trust at this point? Nobody seems trustworthy. No, that's not true. Chris and Adrian, Vigilante and Peacemaker, are almost too stupid to be duplicitous. Now, everybody else, I don't think you can trust. Adebayo is Amanda Waller's daughter. Economos just, made the car registration go to Augie, and Mern didn't want that in the first place, so he's obviously taking orders from somebody else. Harcourt definitely is manipulating people. Mern is a butterfly. You can't trust Amanda Waller. I'm not sure who we're supposed to be rooting for here. I mean, and of course, Peacemaker didn't kill the butterfly, so that butterfly is currently alive in a jar and getting high. It's a very odd show. I like it, but it's an odd show. And I'm not sure where it's going. Like I said, we saw on one of the screens when we first saw what a butterfly was, they showed us this computer screen of the potential butterflies, and they were like everywhere but Russia. All across Europe, all across South America and Africa and North America, everywhere were these potential butterflies. But are they all the same? Are they all working together? And what are they working for? What is their goal? And who is the real bad guys here? Like I said, Judo Master isn't a bad guy in the comics. Peacemaker's close to being, well, he's kind of a Punisher type. So he's an anti-hero, and same with Vigilante. Judo Master is usually a hero. And it makes me wonder, are we going to get any of the other Charlton characters too? I mean, there's some big level ones. The Question, Captain Atom, Blue Beetle, Nightshade. But there's some minor ones too. About the only one they can't bring in is Pete Cannon Thunderbolt, because somehow, and I'm not sure what the thing behind it is, but Dynamite currently has that license, or that character. So he's the one Charlton character that I guess DC didn't get. Not quite sure how that worked. I'm going to have to maybe ask Nick about that one day, how it's suddenly that Dynamite has that. But yeah, so I'm not sure where this show is going. It's really, usually at this point in a series, you kind of get where things are going. I mean, you look at Book of Boba Fett, and even though they spent way too much time doing flashbacks, we see what everybody's trying to do. Hey, Mark, thank you, sir. Thank you for tuning in also. We see what's happening in Book of Boba Fett. He's trying to take over. We see why. We get a good explanation of it. By 4 episodes into 7, you kind of know. And we're 4 into, I think, 8. Peacemaker's going to be 8 episodes. So normally by now, you'd really know what's going on. But between the fact that we got 3 episodes dumped at once and then a 4th, it doesn't feel like we've been watching this that much. But we're halfway through the series now. We don't know what the butterflies are doing. We don't know why Myrn is hunting them if he is one. We don't know what anybody else's role in this is. If Amanda Waller is manipulating everybody or just certain people. I mean, there really are. I mean, like I said, the two almost innocent characters that you believe are what they are psychopaths, are killers. I mean, they're just very immature. So it's an odd show. I'm loving it. Everything from the opening credit scenes to the dance number to him arguing with the neighbor about Batman and the reveal of the White Dragon battle suit and the realization that he's taking all of the helmets. At one point, he takes all of the helmets out of the dimensional void, or whatever you want to call that place that his dad has. And you can't forget that, at least in the post-credit scene, one of the helmet's solo only superpower was it gave the wearer scabies. And it looks like he took that one. Is that going to come back? Is James Gunn going to play that off? Or is it just because we were introduced to that one in the post-credits, it doesn't count? Yeah. I have a feeling that it's going to be a big bait and switch. We're going to find out at some point that either there are two types of butterflies or the butterflies aren't the real bad guys. Because they're setting it up that way. That there's a lot of manipulation. And James Gunn likes to make it where the real bad guy is man. He likes to point out man's faults and stuff like that. And you've seen that in some of his other movies. Greed and stuff like that are always the downfall. So I can see them doing that. And I look forward to that. I look forward to that when it gets revealed. But there's just so much going on at this point that, how does his dad play into this? You don't show that costume, that White Dragon costume, and not put him in it and not have somebody wear it and fight with it. You got to have it, And there's a lot of these little references they keep making. I don't think any of these characters are going to pop up, but at some point, these references, Matter Eater Lad, Batmite, those are two characters that I didn't think we'd ever hear of in a DCEU property. And this is still the same universe that Ben Affleck is Batman. So that means at some point, Ben Affleck had to deal with Batmite. And all I can think of is that it really needs to be played by Jason Mewes. I think that would have been the perfect casting for Batmite. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's really my thoughts on the 4th episode of Peacemaker. It was very weird because it felt like a side trip. The whole thing about him going into, Vigilante going into the prison to try to get Augie and what happened in there. It never felt like Augie was an important part of the story. He's always just kind of on the outside. And now that he knows that this group that Chris is working with is the reason he's in prison, that stuff is going on, and Chris has told him too much. And now he's got that information and can use it to try to get himself out of prison. It's kind of coming around where I think he's going to be a huge payoff character. But let's see. Mark says, what are your thoughts on the mother-daughter relationship and potential impacts? I am thinking that in a way they are creating another Amanda Waller closer to the comics than the current version. I think she's going to be... I think we're going to find out more and more that she's very like her mother. That the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I don't think she's going to turn on her mom. I think it's going to come out that she's very similar to her mom. Because we're getting little bits of that as we go. And I think she's going to be the ultimate betrayal, because a lot of this is about stripping everything away from Peacemaker. And right now he's got, the unrequited love with Harcourt, but he has this bond, this trust with Adebayo, because they have a kindred spirit going on. And I have a feeling that that's part of it, is that he's going to have to lose everything. If this story is the hero's journey, and it would be one of the strangest hero's journeys yet. But if it is, he needs to lose everything, and his bond or his connect, he needs to be betrayed by her, which he already has, in a way, when she tries to convince one of his best friends. Economos does remind us that Eagly is actually his best friend, but she tries to convince Vigilante to kill his father. That's a big betrayal. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think her character is going to end up being the big twist, or, is going to betray him, and that's going to push him towards being an actual hero. But we'll see. Maybe he won't. Maybe James Gunn may not be following the normal playbook, which I don't think James Gunn has ever followed the normal playbook. All right, guys, that is going to wrap the show up today. Thank you for joining us. Remember, stick around for Black Comic Universe starting immediately after this show. Then Minute to Skim It with Miss Jen and Bean. And then I'll be back with Kyle and a couple guests to do in stores this week. Also, please check out the Karma Kickstarter, which is going on now for another 9 days. Back it if you can. I would appreciate it. Thank you. I will be back tomorrow with Kara Nicole to talk about her Kickstarter, Unstable Frequencies, and just how to do a Kickstarter. She has some really interesting, great ideas. So we'll see you tomorrow with Kara. Have a great night. Good night, everybody.